A few weeks ago, I drove the new Dodge Hornet. It was the GT model. This is the RT with the plug-in hybrid, additional horsepower, but also a lot more torque. But it is pretty interesting. And this one is in a nice blue color, really nice. Basically, it looks about the same on the outside, the RT and the GT, so it's kind of hard to tell the difference. This one has the black wheels, gloss black everywhere. Really cool taillights. Like I showed in the night video, you got to check out my night video on the Hornet. This one has the dual exhaust. So the plug-in hybrid, the fuel door is on the other side, and this is the door for plugging it in. It has a little light there. This thing kind of gets in the way a lot. But you plug it in and you get about 30 miles range, and you also get a little bit more power and stuff. It uses that electric system to kind of boost the little already boosted engine that's in there. And check out these red seats. So I guess the blue and red goes together, but man, these are nice looking red seats. They're a little bit more like maroon color than bright red. The camera might be making them look a little bit brighter than what they are, but they do look good. And this one has the sunroof as well, with the RT package here. But yeah, I really like these red seats. There's no red, there's some stitching here on the sides, but there's no like red portions in the door to match them. So it's basically just the seats and the stitching that's red. And it has the big like Ferrari type paddle shifters. This one has some additional optional equipment here, which I'll have this at the end of the video and also in the description. So here's the efficiency of the electric portion. It has 77 miles per gallon E. So the MPG E, it basically takes the equivalent amount of energy that would be in a gallon of gas, and then see with the battery system, and it'll tell you how many miles you can go using that equivalent amount of energy. So an actual real electric vehicle can be like 100, 120, 140 MPGE. So this one with the hybrid system brings it up to 77, which is basically, you know, you have to plug it in to get this, and it's just basically just the electric range. Now with the using the blended, you know, hybrid system, it's getting 44 is what it's estimating here, and then just on gasoline only is 29. But yeah, it's pretty good as far as the efficiency. It's a little bit better than a regular gas vehicle. It does have some lag as far as, you know, the acceleration and stuff like that. But putting in sport mode, and then there's a power shot feature that pops up here, and you can use the paddle shifters to initiate it, and it gives you the more responsive acceleration basically. When you put it in sport mode and you just floor it, it accelerates pretty good. And now this has the, you know, electric power adding to the boosted engine, so we have a double power source here. Now when we put it in the power shot, you basically pull in both of these paddle shifters at the same time. It has to be in sport mode, and there's certain conditions apparently that has to be met, because sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. So I'm going to pull it in and see if it works this time. All right, so now it turned on. There's a little indicator, a white indicator there. All right, so yeah, it does feel a little bit more responsive there with the acceleration. So here's in hybrid mode. And other than a little bit of delay in the beginning of the acceleration, it feels about the same as sport mode, because once it starts to kick in gear, then it feels about the same. But it is a little bit of a delay when you put your foot down on the pedal all the way down. So let's go ahead and put it in electric mode. All right, so basically what it does is, there's a certain point in which you push the accelerator, and if you push it all the way past a certain point, it'll just kick it back into hybrid. So it accelerates okay in electric by itself, but you know, once you need that additional power, it basically has to have the engine to give that additional power. When you put it in e-save mode, it's supposed to save your battery power for later use, basically, but sometimes it'll reduce the amount of miles. It'll reduce the battery for some reason anyway, a little bit, but it'll mostly save. Like right now, we're running off electricity. Even though I have it in e-save mode, it's still all right. Yeah, so let's go ahead and put it back in e-save mode so you can see it's a huge delay in when I press the button and then where it lands. All right, so we're in e-save mode, and we'll see if it's still, yeah, it's still using battery power. We're not even starting the engine yet. Yeah, the engine's flat. So that's why I say it's kind of weird. It doesn't save it like you would think it would save it. It still uses a lot of battery power, but I guess it'll keep it from going down to a certain level, because I mean, I'm sure that feature can't be completely useless. But when you put it in sport mode, so you have the regular hybrid, you have the electric mode, and then you have the e-save. But when you put it in sport mode, right now we're running off electricity. When we go ahead and put that push the sport mode button, now it will, as we drive, now the engine started, as we drive and we're just kind of cruising along, it actually charged the battery a little bit. So that way, if you really need to save the battery, and if you really need to have that, you know, additional battery power, just go ahead and put it in sport mode, is what it seems like, because that'll actually charge the battery. Because I put it in e-save, and it has a meter right there, and it doesn't, I never really see it hardly ever. Now, charge the battery. Now, possibly if you're going down a real steep hill or something, maybe it'll do that. But the engine doesn't charge the battery, from what I've seen. But when it is in sport mode, it does it more. So I'm going to go ahead and put the cruise control on, because that's where I see it. When I put the cruise control on, I'm just kind of cruising along. I'll see, especially on flat surfaces or going downhill, I'll see that it does charge the battery a little bit. Another thing is about the battery level is if you just start driving it, it's going to use, if you drive it in hybrid, which is the default, it's going to use the electricity and then completely deplete that the battery before, and then as you drive, you're basically, from driving after 30 miles or so, it's going to be just an empty battery, and you're just going to drive on with zero battery power. Now the PowerShot requires a certain battery percentage or certain level of battery power to assist you in that, so that might make it to where you can't use the PowerShot feature, and also maybe diminish some of your actual power of the vehicle after that battery is deleted, you know, or depleted. So, you know, it might be good to, at certain times, if you want to use the PowerShot or the additional power for whatever reason, you might want to put it in sport mode for a while, make sure you can hold on to some of that battery, or the e-save option there, because by default it's just going to deplete the battery to zero, and then you drive from that point on zero battery level. So when you plug in this car, it takes about 2 hours to charge, and it takes about the cost of the electricity to plug it in at home. It is about $1.50 to $2. So, and that'll give you about 31 miles of electric range for just normal driving. If you need the full power of the vehicle, then it's going to kick in the engine. And it's actually worked for me. I mean, 30 miles is a pretty long way. So if you don't need a lot of power and you're just kind of cruising along, 30 miles is a long ways to go for most people, as far as, you know, they could do a lot of driving without actually, you know, dipping into too much gas, you know. So yeah, for me, I've driven this vehicle several days, and I hadn't put any gas in it, and it still has over 3/4 of a tank, because I plug it in each night. And sometimes if I leave and come back and then leave again, I'll plug it in between, you know, trips or whatever. Now I am, you know, adding a few dollars here and there to my electric bill, but As far as that, the efficiency is probably much better than, you know, the actual gas, spending money on gas. So, you know, it's a cost and benefits. You can see if it works for you, but it's an interesting way to use a vehicle to save gas and use a little bit of electricity here and there. But if you need to, you know, drive for a long period of time, you have the gas engine, and once the battery's depleted, you can just keep on driving until you have to get more gas. Now, it doesn't have a huge tank. It's kind of got a small gas tank, so you know, the range is not that far. You know, you have to it's under 300 miles, something like that. It's like 280, 300 miles, and then you have to put gas in it. But you know, it's fairly good on gas, and even when it's not using the battery, because it does use the hybrid system. So when you come to a complete stop, it'll turn the engine off, that kind of stuff. And it can propel the vehicle a little bit when you're in hybrid mode. So, you know, it'll deplete it to zero, especially if you put it in sport mode. It'll bring up the miles a little bit and charge the battery. So that way, in case you need to, you know, just kind of creeping through traffic or something like that, or driving slowly through a parking lot, it might just stay on battery level, even though it's very low battery level. So it has the lane keep assist system, which you press this button and it has like a little green triangle, and that kind of just, you know, bounces you away from the sides of the road there. But when you press the button with the steering wheel and the green light is on, that actually tries to follow the road. And so it's like a lane, maintaining the lane assist. And what's good about it is it doesn't bug you. It doesn't, you know, fight against you as you're driving. And also it has a grip sensor. So some vehicles, the only way it can tell you're holding the steering wheel is if you're constantly jiggling it or whatever. This one, as long as your hand is gently on the steering wheel, you know, it kind of like knows your hand's there, and, you know, it doesn't bug you. You know, some vehicles are very, very annoying. It's constantly bugging you and beeping at you, and you have to jiggle the steering wheel, and then eventually just get tired of it and turn it off. So this one is not like that. It's fine because of the grip sensor, and also the way it follows the road. It's just in a natural spot on the lane. It's not you know, some vehicles, like, it wants you to be super close to one side or the other, and then when you let go of the steering wheel, it's like it's trying to push you towards the one lane or one side of the road, and then when you let go of the steering wheel, it puts you back where you were to begin with. So it's like it's just constantly fighting against you. But this one works really good. Now, I just want to mention something. When I say it doesn't charge the battery, it does regen the battery when you slow down or going down a hill. So when I hit the brakes, it's a blended braking system. So when I hit the brakes like this, yes, it's going to charge the battery, you know. What I'm talking about is charging the battery while you're just driving at a constant speed, and then charging it enough to where it actually brings up your mileage. The regen braking helps a little bit, but it's not a constant charge, you know, like the E-Save or the Sport. You know, you would think that it would have a little bit more of a charge there. One thing this vehicle, I think, needs is an actual physical button or some easy way or a permanent space here on the screen to access the camera system. Because there is a shortcut here, which you can pull down and get to. It only takes a second. But still, being able to access that camera system, because it is a really good, very useful camera system for going forward or reverse. And so, you know, like in this case here, you know, I want to make sure that I'm not hitting the curb or anything like that, and I can line myself up and everything. But it's just nice to have a quick access to the camera system at all times when you're trying to park or whatever. Now, automatically it will turn on when you put it in reverse, but just having access to the camera system with a push of a button or just have a permanent spot here on the screen would be more ideal, I think. It's pretty cool having a phone charger right there, but it's kind of a pain because my phone, it's hard to get the phone in and out sometimes. So just trying to put it in there, sometimes it just slips right in. Like, okay, so there we go. Was able to get it in, and it charges even with the case on, usually. But getting it out, you know, it kind of jams up in there a lot. So it's a little bit less space. I'm sure if I use this vehicle regularly, I would be able to, you know, develop a routine taking it in and out, but it's just not too much space taken up here. Like if this wasn't there and it was just like I can easily take it in and out, but since you have to have clearance in the top and the bottom, so I could push it all the way up in the top and it doesn't go in the bottom. I have to kind of push it down here, and then this is in the way, so I have to kind of move it over there, push it down, and then slide it over in place. But getting it out sometimes is just like, you know, it's really sometimes a pain. So that could be improved, I think.